Welcome to Brown Girl Rising. This is your host, Ush, and today I have a very special guest. Her name is Rima The Grounded Yogi. Rima is an ex-accountant turned yoga instructor after finding that yoga helped suppress her anxiety and depressive thoughts throughout both of her pregnancies. Rima now has two beautiful little girls and continues to use yoga as a daily practice to come back home to herself. Since training as a yoga instructor, Rima has discovered her purpose is to empower women at every stage of their pregnancy, to postnatal and beyond into the jungle of motherhood, as she calls it. She's a firm believer that we can control how we feel in every single moment. And Rima is a new friend of mine, and I'm really excited to learn more about her in today's podcast. So welcome, Rima, to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You are more than welcome. So, Rima, the first thing I ask all of my guests is this one question. So I'm going to ask it to you as well.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to you to be unlimited?
I love this question. Becoming unlimited, I think it's all about, I would say, pushing through the restrictions and the assumptions that we place on ourselves and just allowing yourself to push through all of that and become everything that you can be. And that's going to be different for everyone. And I think it really, for me anyway, it really started with the belief of everything I can be. And then just, pushing through all of those things that society, everyone around us, even ourselves just put on us. So just pushing through it all and just going and allowing yourself to be that best version of you.
I love that. So it's like breaking down barriers that have been placed on you, or boundaries, cultural boundaries, societal boundaries, institutions as well, and just believing in yourself to become everything you want to be.
Yeah.
All right. So your story about becoming a yoga instructor started it sounds like it started at pregnancy. So can you tell me about how you went from, a full-time accountant into yoga and what kind of drove that direction for you?
Mm-hmm. So for me, yoga came at a time, like I think you've already mentioned, when I was pregnant for the first time. So that was my first real interaction with yoga. I'd sort of dabbled in and out along the years, when your parents tell you to try all these kind of funky breathing techniques and all of that when it's coming up on those Indian TV channels when you're growing up, and when hot yoga was kind of new to the scene. I tried it all. There was no consistency and I didn't really kind of connect to it too much. But in my pregnancy is when I really saw the benefits of yoga in its true sense. So it was much more than the reasons I started. So I think I went to my first yoga class because someone had told me that it would help with all the kind of aches and pains and all the kind of physical things that can happen in pregnancy. And it did, 100%. But it did so much more. And I really felt like throughout my pregnancy, and even more like once I'd had my first child, it's a time of so much uncertainty, so much anxiety, so much pressure. There is just so much going on. And when you're a new mum, you don't know the right answer. But to be able to zone into yourself and listen to yourself amongst all those noise, all the different opinions, all of that stuff, any new mum can tell you how chaotic it is while you're dealing with all these changes yourself. It really helped me at that time. That was the moment that I really saw the power of it, being able to tap into myself. And it just kind of opened up so much, like so many benefits, so much about my own parenting, my own self-awareness, just the ability to all of a sudden have something to use to come back to myself when everything else is just so chaotic around you.
Yeah. You mentioned a few things that I kind of want to dig into. So you mentioned the true sense of yoga. So, in this world, like we know there's so many different types of yoga. Obviously, hot yoga is massive, Vinyasa, Ashtanga, Hatha, whatever. What do you mean when you say the true sense of yoga?
Right. So this is such a big subject.
Do we need 45 minutes on this subject?
Yeah, probably, but I'll summarize. I will be succinct. So true yoga is so much more than what you get in your average class. I'm not going to say every class because there are teachers out there, and I have started to come across teachers who are really passionate about sharing all the different elements of yoga.
Okay.
But from what I've seen, majority of the yoga classes out there, you see the physical side, so the asana side, which is the poses and the postures. And those things are great for your physical body. Some of them even have real benefits for your spiritual body, for your mind, all of those things as well. But that is just one area, whereas there are actually 8 limbs to yoga. So 8 different areas. So to get the full yoga experience, there are so many more elements. It's almost like a way of life. So
Yeah.
yoga as a subject is all about how to conduct yourself externally in the outside world, in, internally for yourself,
Yeah.
how to deal with all these things. And we see snippets of it in a class, I find, maybe because it's not possible, I don't know, to give all of that in one class, but I feel that that's where for me, that's where I realized how powerful it could be, is when I realized that it's so much more than just doing a few stretches. That is like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
It's that meditation, the breath work, all of those things that can connect you to yourself. Those are the parts that can change your life through yoga.
Yeah. And yoga's like like a massive fundamental of Ayurveda as well, isn't it? And
Yes.
so, when you were talking about the 8 limbs, what came to me was the 5 koshas. So obviously your kind of body, your aura, your breath, your mental and enlightenment. So the physical and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of sounds like yoga can be the tool to help you get to that bliss body state.
Yeah,
Would you say?
absolutely. Yes, definitely. Yeah. And it is a journey, and it is consistent practice. It's keeping that learning going. And even for me, like, I've been doing this for years now, and I am still not there. I don't think it's possible to get there. I think it's a journey, and the whole benefit of it and the whole the greatness of yoga is that it's that journey, that consistent learning and growing. And I think that's what coincides with you as a person, to learn and grow and just keep going. I think it genuinely is something that you can keep learning for the rest of your life.
Well, they do say yoga's a practice, right?
Yes,
you
absolutely. That's
never,
exactly
you never
what
pass
it
an
is.
exam. It's a daily practice.
No, exactly.
Right? Amazing. You said about self-awareness. So when you're doing your yoga, like, what state of mind do you feel like somebody should try and aim for with regards to coming home, coming to themselves and self-awareness?
So I always refer to my yoga style as mindful movement. And I think the mindful element is a really big part of it, because anyone can move, anyone can do exercise, anyone can do movements or postures, whatever it is in any area, even yoga. But to do it with awareness of your body in the present moment, that's the difficult bit. That's the bit that takes the practice. So even for me, sometimes I'll come down onto my mat, and if it's been one of those days, or if it's been one of those mornings, or I'm just everywhere, hormones are flying, whatever the reason, I can be on that mat and I'm doing things, and I realize I'm not actually in the moment. I'm still thinking about what I need to do for the rest of my day. I'm still harboring emotions from the day before, whatever it is. And it's like you said, it's a practice. So for me, bringing that mindful element, so moving in tune with your body, asking yourself questions like, how does this feel? This doesn't feel good. Why doesn't it feel good? Why does this feel heavy? When you're in the moment, a yoga practice can bring up emotions. It can bring up feelings that you didn't even know you had. Like, so many times I've been in a practice and tears have come, and it's genuinely just from, you think it's from nowhere, but when you dig down, you do realize there's always a reason.
Yeah, I've been on a yoga mat before and have been doing a lot of hip work and opening up the hips, and I ended up in floods of tears, and I've gone like, where has this come from?
Yeah,
right.
Because you're holding emotions, and that's just unleashed it. And it's amazing. Like, people, if you've never experienced it, it can be very easy to laugh at that. Really, it's really really dismiss it, and just, it's quite unbelievable. But it's when you give it a go, when you've experienced it for yourself, that you see the power of it. And I think anyone who has experienced it, that's why you naturally become so passionate about it, because when you feel good and you found something, you want to share it. Like, it's our natural human want to just, you want to have to shout about it and just share it to everyone.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job of it. So I want to go back to your pregnancies. You mentioned obviously that you started practicing yoga when you felt like you were getting these feelings of anxiety and
Mhm.
depression. So what did that feel like for you? That anxiety, that depression? What happened?
I think during the pregnancy, and I think this is really common, it's actually so much more common than we're led to believe. In pregnancy, which if we think about what that is, it's a time where your body is changing, you know your whole life is about to change. There
Mm,
is so much going on. Everything that you do day to day life is it's going to change,
yeah.
whether you like it or not. It's going to
Yeah.
change. You're going to adapt, and it's not always going to be a bad thing. But in that moment when you know that every single thing about your life, as you know it, is going to change, that's huge. That's such a big realization. So it's so common for women to feel anxious at that time.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because for a lot of us, you're led to believe through the movies and things that you see on TV that pregnancy is all about getting that glow and it's eating for two and all these great things, which it can be. Like I genuinely loved my
Well, it's
pregnancy.
definitely
So
not eating for two.
it's
I
not
know that
eating for
much.
two. Yeah, I learned that the hard way. It's not eating for two, but whatever it is, whatever it gets you through that pregnancy, everyone does what they need to do.
Mm,
But the anxiety is so common and it's not always addressed. So I think it's becoming more common now to start talking about it. But still, there's so many women who I obviously come across so many women in their pregnancy, and it's only when they start practicing these things, they start opening up and they start talking to me. They always say, "Oh, I'm so glad that someone else has felt like this. It feels so good to talk about it." And these are people with partners and families, supportive people all around them. But
yeah.
it's still so hard for us in any area, for a lot of us, to just open up, especially when you
Mm,
think you're going through something that you do feel grateful and you do know that it's hard, it's not easy for everyone, not everyone gets to experience it. So you have this kind of guilt almost about being anxious about it as well. So there's all these things going on, and I just found that during the pregnancy, it was that anxiety that it really helped me. It really just, the yoga practice brought me to the present moment and
yeah.
also just allowed me to enjoy that experience. Like you're never gonna,
Mm,
you're never gonna have that same experience again. Even in a different pregnancy, it's gonna be different. The whole situation is gonna be different. And I really valued that. Like I'm so grateful for that because, like I said, I genuinely loved my pregnancy, and not a lot of people can say that, but
mm,
they could. I genuinely have seen it for myself that when I had something to come back to,
yeah.
that is what allowed me to embrace it for everything it was. And then after I had the baby, and even the second time round, what was different was, again, your life has actually changed. So going from knowing that your life is going to change, actually experiencing it,
Yeah.
having your body change, like that was the biggest thing for me. Like someone who was always into the fitness side, maybe not the mind body connection, but the fitness side, I was always into it, even leading up to my pregnancy. So all of a sudden, when your body is different, it can do different things. It can't do everything it used to
Mm,
do, especially in the immediate kind of weeks and months. Very it's a very different feeling. And again, you have another human being to look after. You've got all the pressures of that. And I'm very much an overthinker. So every single thing that happens, even if I don't react in the moment, I am there staying up at night thinking about it, thinking about what I could have said, what I did, what I didn't do. Every single thing I could overthink about, I can do. And then that can you can really spiral and get into a bad place.
yeah.
But for me, it was my practice that as soon as I was even near those, when I was going into those thoughts, going into that spiral, it was my practice that brought me back. And
Mm,
I know for a fact that it could have been so much worse if I didn't have something to bring me back.
yeah.
Because at certain times in your life, you are the only person that can help you. There are people around you saying the right things, even the medical professionals. There's people out there that they're saying to you, "Oh yeah, it's normal to feel like this. Like, talk to me. How are you?" That question, when people ask you, "How are you?" your reflex answer is, "I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, everything's
Yeah.
great." Like it comes out before you've even thought about it. So I think for me, I needed something for myself because I am an introvert, and I need
Yeah.
that ability to get back to myself on my own in my own
Yeah.
time.
Mm.
So it was a really big thing for me. And I'm just so grateful that I had it at that time.
Amazing. So it sounds like yoga was the bridge between your lower brain and your higher brain, or your lower self and your higher self. Would you say that was
Yes,
correct?
absolutely. And I might not have realized at the time, but now when I look back and every time I talk about these experiences, I'm very much realizing that. And it still is. It still is, day to day, it's a constant practice. It really is. It's a constant practice. And if I have days where I'm not very consistent with it, if I've been busy, or even when I go on holiday, even when I go on amazing holidays
Mm,
where you think you have no reason to be sad, angry, frustrated, any of those things, it's still possible. I've been there. I've been on holidays, in day 5 when I haven't done any practice and I have no reason to feel like this. I will have outbursts. I just know that I'm not my best self and I need to
yeah,
get back into it.
yeah. I'm a bit like that with training, actually. If I don't
Hmm.
train for 3 days, I can do 3 days. Obviously, you need a bit of rest between lifting, but if I don't train and on day 3,
Yeah,
oh my
you just
God,
know.
all hell breaks loose. Do you know, I wish I could get into yoga. Like, I love yoga, but I haven't got to a point where I can practice it every day. I have
Hmm.
this vision of my future self being that, yogi that wakes up in the morning, does her meditation, gets on the mat. It
Hmm.
just hasn't happened. So and obviously, that is because I am working a 9 to 5 job. I
Hmm.
am running my business. I am running fitness classes. So, how would you advise someone to maybe start fitting yoga into their daily life in
Yeah.
micro ways, no microwaves?
So everything you've just said is something that I was hearing a lot, and I still do.
Okay.
It's pretty much, I mean, pretty much any adult, especially with women. And what I found was especially women who have children, who are working, who are balancing that work-life balance, the
Mm,
whole, like I said, the whole juggle or jungle of motherhood, like as I like to call it.
mm,
It's so much, and you have so much pressure. Even the good stuff can feel pressure. Like it can feel like, oh, I need to practice self-care because everyone's telling me to. Oh, I need to
yeah.
do mindfulness. All these things that are just being thrown at you from every single angle. It's
Yeah.
just more and more pressure. So something that I really wanted to do, and this is what I've done with my online memberships, is I want to add yoga into people's lives without taking anything out. So without
Okay.
taking time away, without taking that energy away, I just want to give people more energy. I want to give people more of the things that they need. So I would always recommend that you start small. 5 minutes of a good mindful practice every single day, or even every other day. It doesn't need to be every single day, but regular. Let's say 5 minutes regularly is going to make such a big difference compared to
Mm,
an hour class once a week.
okay.
100%. So that's something that I have come across. And I really have shared this with people who have put it into action and really felt the difference. So people who
Yeah.
would say, I go to my yoga class, I've got a local yoga class to me, I go every week. Like it's still not enough. I'm still feeling stressed. I'm still feeling anxious, all these things.
Mm,
And it's because you cannot do something once a week and expect it to stay with you and feel the benefits of the rest of the week. Because if
100%.
you think about how many things are thrown at you on a day-to-day basis from the minute you wake up, even
Yeah.
within the first few hours of the day, you have social pressures, you've got social media pushing things about how you need to look, what you need to do, how you need to parent, all these things that you've
Yeah.
got people you're going to interact with that are going to say things, they're going to rub you up the wrong way, you've got colleagues, you've got all these things that before you've even got to lunchtime have just kind of pushed and pushed and pushed, and before you know it you're like this hot mess.
Yeah, your nervous
So
system's
yeah,
everywhere.
exactly, and it's very natural, like all of us are like that. And I think that's, so yeah, it's about getting that consistency in very small doses. And then naturally, your body and your mind will crave it. You will see the difference. You will see that this feels good. So the next time
Mm,
that you're having a bad day, or you're just having a day where you're feeling a little bit less motivated, you're going to be able to push through and say, you know what,
mm,
I know I'm going to feel great. I'm going to do this 5 minutes. If something is, if you've got work pressures, if you've got a busy day, it's really easy to feel like, no, I just need to get my work done. But
yeah.
actually, if you know that you're going to feel better, you're going to take that 5 minutes before, practice, and then you're going to have an amazing day.
Mm. So if I was to do a 5 minute practice daily,
Hmm.
what would you recommend I do? Would it be that kind of going inwards breath work, or would it be that kind of getting on the mat and maybe doing a downward dog or, a sun salutation? Because, at
Hmm.
one point in my life, I was trying to do 10 sun salutations in the morning. Oh my
Okay,
God,
that's a
that is
lot.
hard work.
That is a lot. Yeah,
It's
that's
hard work.
hardcore.
Yeah. I mean, I felt great after it, but I'd be sweating after 10,
Yep.
you know? So yeah, what would you recommend to do in that 5 minutes?
So if I was going to tell you 5 minutes, from starting from tomorrow, and if you were someone who hadn't really regularly practiced before, I would say find a quiet place, sit down, start with some breathing, very simple, nothing complicated. Literally take maybe 3 or 4 deep breaths just to
Mm.
settle yourself down. Do a few gentle stretches. So even in your seated position, just take a couple of minutes, do some stretches, some twists, some neck stretches, some
Mm.
shoulder rolls, just waking up your body. If it's the
Yeah.
morning or even if it's the end of the day, if you've been sitting at your desk, just
Mm.
move your body gently and just take those few minutes. So just breathing, moving, and then take a moment of stillness at the end. Just see
Yeah.
what comes up. Just
Yeah.
don't put pressure on it. Just sit there.
Mm.
Just look at your thoughts. It's not about emptying your mind. You're going to have thoughts. That is your mind's job.
Yeah.
But just allow yourself to look at those thoughts, see what comes up. And that is your space for all those things that we're kind of suppressing or that we're trying to hide down. That's when it will come up. And you can then move forward from it. You can
Mm.
address those emotions. You
Yeah.
can allow yourself to feel things, all of that stuff. And it's also about what you need. So some days you will need more inward looking practice. Some days maybe you do need some movement. Maybe you need something to just get the energy flowing. So it
Yeah.
really depends. And this is what I offer to people. And it's about what you need in that moment. So if you
Yeah.
need an energetic burst,
Yeah.
because that's what you need in that moment, there are things you can do. There are specific breathwork practices you can do just
Okay.
to get the energy going. There are specific movements. So you mentioned sun salutation. That's a really good
Yeah.
one to get that energy flowing.
I
Maybe
love
not
it.
10,
Yeah,
but
I
I
do
would
it.
say even even just 1 or 2, that will wake up the body. It's a
Yeah.
full body movement. That's the whole point of it, that it really works on every part of the body. So it's a very easy way, especially for beginners where you don't quite know what to do. And if you want to do it on your
Mm.
own, just learn that sequence. Again, that's something I offer that people can just practice in their own. I think
Amazing.
my biggest thing is just to start small
Yeah.
and to be consistent with it. Those are the only two things you need to be able to commit to.
I love that. Start small and be consistent. Amazing. So I want to ask you about, obviously you're an accountant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're a yoga instructor.
Yes.
How did you, because obviously you're also Asian, and I find that when you tell your family that you are going to do something completely different and go in a different direction,
Mm-hmm.
they came to this country with this goal of educating you and having you become that accountant. And when you told them,
Yeah.
sorry guys, I'm going to be a yoga instructor, how did they take that?
Yeah. There's a few things there. I think, I'll be honest, a lot of the pressure around being able to tell people that actually I'm not going to be an accountant anymore. I'm going to be a yoga teacher. A lot of that actually came from myself.
Okay.
So I myself almost couldn't admit it. So it took me a long time when you're out and about, one of the first questions that people ask is always, what do you do?
Mm,
It took me so long to be able to say, I am a yoga teacher. And
really?
it took me a long time, definitely more than a year after I qualified, in even longer probably. It took me so long because for me, saying I'm an accountant, it fitted a box. It
Yeah.
meant that the person I was speaking to usually could relate to it. They could say, oh, I'm an accountant, or my brother's an accountant, or so and so. They know someone who's an accountant and they know what that is. And the
Mm,
reaction is what I expect it to be. It was like the norm, right?
yeah.
One of those kind of industries that everyone knows about, whatever. And I think in my head, you want to say something? Go
Yeah, I do.
ahead.
I also want to say that when you say you're accountant,
Yeah.
people start thinking money. They go, oh, okay, so she's got some money. And when
Yeah.
you say you're a yoga instructor, they're like, oh,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It's that assumption that people are going to assume when you say accountant, oh, okay, you make money, you're stable, you're
yeah,
this and that, all these things that are so, they're not always even true. That's the thing. Like, you
Yeah.
can be all of those things in very different ways. You could be a yoga teacher doing it for different reasons. Like,
Yeah.
for me, what I have realized over the years, that money is not my biggest motivator.
Oh.
And I know that's almost like a privilege to be able to say that. But
Mm.
again, it's something that I had to become comfortable with, because that's the only way that I can share everything I'm sharing in the most authentic way that comes from me, in the way that I want to share it.
Mm.
So there's so much even with that. But I think, going back to your question about what it felt like saying, I'm not an accountant anymore, I'm a yoga teacher. I think that, yeah, it was a lot about myself. And even this year, to be able to say that I'm trying to transition from saying I'm a yoga teacher to I have an online yoga business. And those words just don't seem to come out naturally when someone asks me what I'm doing. So everything takes time, and it's all about
Yeah.
yourself becoming comfortable and aware of these things. So as soon as I became aware of the fact that, why am I not telling people I'm a yoga teacher? Like, why do I keep saying, oh, well, I used to be an accountant, but no, now I've got two kids. Like, that was my story for a long time. Oh, I used to be an accountant, now I've got two kids, so I'm with them. And that would be the end of it. But I
Right.
think it just took me a long time to become comfortable with the fact that, actually, no, I used to be an accountant. That's great. But they're asking me what I am doing right now. And
Yeah.
right now, I am a yoga teacher. And yes,
Oh.
sometimes that gets answered with some blanks, that it kind of, that kind of moment where everything's a bit quiet and someone is waiting for someone to speak, that awkward pause, because they're trying to think of what to say. They're all, you get a bit of, oh, that's interesting. And then there's no questions, there's no follow up. But that's okay. Like, it's me. It's
Mm.
all about myself. I've realized, to become more comfortable with that quiet, that space afterwards. That's fine.
Mm.
I'm a yoga teacher. If they want to ask me anything, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. It doesn't change
Yeah.
anything about me.
And actually, even as a life coach, it's really important. If you are a coach at the end of the day, and it is really important to leave that space for silence
Mm-hmm.
and let someone process and then
Yeah.
come back, right? And so even if it feels uncomfortable, just get comfortable with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the assumptions that we put into it. I always take that pause as, they're judging me. They don't
Yeah.
think I'm making any money. They don't think I'm worth their time. They don't think I'm
Mm.
worth their conversation. If it's in a big social, like at a wedding or something, I put those assumptions on myself that,
Yeah.
oh, now they don't know what to talk about with me. So they're looking for someone else to talk to. It's
Yeah.
all these things that we
I'm
just
not
put on
smart enough.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All of these things. And I mean, maybe sometimes it was true, but again, that's not my problem. That's their problem.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
just all of these things that I have. And again, it's really strange. I keep saying it comes back to my practice, but that's what it's given me, that ability to be comfortable in my own self. I did not have probably for the first 30 years of my life. I
Yeah.
was such a people pleaser that I would mold into whatever I needed to be in different situations.
Mm.
So I was almost like a different version of myself at work, compared to my friends, compared to my family,
Okay.
compared to relationships. And it wasn't really me being me. It was me being who I think, who I thought I needed to be in each of those areas. So that was something that I really gained.
Do you feel like your culture had an impact on that though? Because being an Indian girl in this society,
Mm-hmm.
um, everyone has this perception of who you already are. But
Yeah.
actually, we're not one thing. We're multiple things, right?
Yes.
On top of
100%.
being daughters, wives, mothers, we're also Indian and cultural. And did you find that actually you had to break down any cultural barriers on this journey of yours?
I think so. Yes. Like you said, I think in the Asian culture, I think especially for women and as girls when we were younger, there is this expectation to be a good Indian girl. Just be a good
Mm.
girl. Listen to what you need to do what's expected. Being quieter, like being loud, is seen as a bad thing.
Yeah,
Like speaking up for
I
yourself,
know.
having any kind of opinion that is against someone else's, like in a conversation, even if it's said in a very polite way, but just having an opinion itself is sometimes viewed as, oh, okay, that's a bit difficult. Like, why
Mm.
why are you not being a little bit more, people pleasing? And it does affect you. It definitely affected me my whole life. Like I said, probably until I got into my 30s, I was that person. I was very much a people pleaser. I always felt like I wanted to get that kind of good girl tip. And the way to
Mm.
do it was to follow other people's expectations. And again, that's something that I have broken out of. It's taken a while and it's taken a lot of work, and it still does. It
Yeah.
still you get comments, or you just get little things sometimes, and it kind of riles you up the wrong way. And you really need to just bring it back to yourself, that it's about who you are. And like you said, we are all so much more than just one thing. Like, men are not told that they are a father or they're a brother, and that's it. Like, that's just a relationship that you have. You are
Yeah.
not that thing. You're not that person. That's not your whole life. Like, I love being a mother. I love being a wife. I love being a daughter, all of those other things. But I can't just sit here and just be those things. Like, I am also myself. I have things that I want to share with the world. I have things that I want to learn, ways I want to grow, so many things. And I think as soon as you realize that you can be all of those things, and it's okay. And that is such a great feeling. And I do feel like more and more of us are realizing that. And it's
100%.
an amazing thing to see in everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely a new paradigm, right? We're going from this place where everyone was institutionalized by like schools and work and college. And now it's like, actually, people are going, we're overworked, we're burnt out, we've got anxiety, we've got depression. Actually, there's got to be a better way. And actually, these tools like yoga, breathwork, mindfulness, meditation, and even coaching, getting a coach, these things are helping to pave the way of people coming home to themselves and realizing who they are.
Exactly. It's bringing yourself.
Yeah.
It's bringing yourself back into alignment with who you are.
100%.
And there's so many steps to that. It's about realizing, having that awareness first, to actually ask yourself, who are you? Because that is a big journey in itself, to realize that. And then pushing through all these expectations and boundaries and things, and pushing through all of that to become that person. It's huge. It's a lifelong journey, isn't it?
It is, completely. It's a daily practice of living.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Okay, we are gonna, honestly, I've enjoyed this conversation. We are gonna wrap it up, but I do have one more question, or one more request for you is what is the one tip you can give our listeners today to guide them on becoming their most unlimited self?
I would say take time to block out the external noise. So that is all the other opinions, expectations from whoever it is. There will be people who be, well-meaning with good intentions, but block all of that out and just take moments to move inwards and allow your inner voice to come through.
I love
that. That's the number one thing, definitely.
I love that. Your voice is so peaceful. Oh my God, I think I might sign up for your membership. Okay, Rima. So tell us, how do we get in contact with you? Should we be interested in reaching out, or your membership? Give us more information.
So the best way is probably, you can follow me on Instagram. I am at the Grounded Yogi, _ Grounded Yogi, if I said that right. I've got a website you can contact me on, which is thegroundedyogi.life.com. You can reach out to me, any of those, to be honest. You send me a message, send me an email, check out my website. You can sign up to my online memberships if you want to practice. If you just have questions, it's not all about practicing with me. If you already have an existing practice, if you have other ways of getting all these benefits, that is absolutely amazing. I'm still here for any questions. I love talking about this stuff because I've genuinely seen how much it helps me, and I love just sharing that with people. So any questions, any comments, I'm always here for conversations.
And you can definitely hear and see your passion about this. So yeah, absolutely, guys. If you need to get in touch or want to get in touch with Rima, it's very easy. It's _ the Grounded Yogi, right?
The _ Grounded
Yogi. The _ Grounded Yogi. Sorry
I'm
about
sure
that.
If you search for Grounded Yogi, that's all you need to remember.
It will come up, definitely. And, I can completely vouch that Rima is a beautiful soul. She didn't know me, and she reached out to me on Instagram and invited me to an event. And here we are today on this podcast. How incredible. So guys, thank you for listening. Rima, thank you for your time. Remember that you guys can follow me as well on Unlimited Urvashi. I have my Thailand retreat coming up next year, and loads of other things in the pipeline. So do follow both of us, and we will see you soon. Thank you, Rima.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope you found it as inspiring as I did and have some incredible takeaways to help you in your life. Now, If you're ready to live your purpose and empower those around you and become just as inspiring as the women that I speak to on this podcast, then this is your chance to work with me one-to-one. I am taking applicants for one-to-one clients now, and all you have to do is book a call with me. The Path to Purpose call is completely free and 30 minutes long, and in that call, we will help you get to a point where you know what your purpose is. So the link to the call, or the link to book the call, is in my bio. So I hope to speak to you soon, and I'll see you on the next podcast.